everyone. I am going to be doing a Q&A today, and I have a lot of fun stuff to talk about. I got engaged! Oh boy, just blowing past these massive milestones. But I also bought a miniature truck, and a lot of other great things have happened. So I have a lot to update you on. I asked for questions here on YouTube, and so many of you responded, so thank you to everyone who left a question. Unfortunately, of course, I can't get to all of them, but I will try and answer as many as I possibly can. I want to start with the ones that got the most upvotes. So question number 1 from Maria, do you have any fun plans for your garden for spring? So when I first moved into this house, I made a video that was all about my dreams and my visions and my plans for the yard. And I've come to realize that, unfortunately, I was biting off more than I could chew. And renovating the inside is a full-time job, and I'm not at the point of like doing stuff outside because the stuff outside requires maintenance. This chair is really squeaking. Inside, I can start on a room, abandon it for a week, get back to it, work on it for a week, abandon it, but you can't do that with a garden. You need to be consistent. So I don't have any big plans right now, other than plant a couple more trees. I have planted a few trees in my yard. I planted a cherry tree, a peach tree, some blossom trees. So I want to plant a few more trees, and I do want to plant some strawberry bushes because there are some wild strawberries in my backyard, and I would love to just like encourage that and have more berries. But actually what I want to do outside this spring is foraging. That's a way for me to like interact with nature, be outside a bit more, enjoy the beauty of Nova Scotia, but not have to worry about myself being the gardener right now. Let nature do her thing. So big hiatus on outdoor garden stuff. The next question that got upvoted a lot was, what are some of your style inspos for the spooky room? I'm so excited to see what happens with that space. I'm also so excited to share with you guys my entire vision for that space. Right now, I'm focusing on the bathroom and then moving on to the spooky room, I think in the summer probably. But when I read this question, one answer instantly came to mind, which I didn't realize had been in my mind, but it was the Jim Carrey version of a series of unfortunate events. And like more specifically, I guess, Aunt Josephine's house, I think is what I'm picturing. It's going to have lots of wood. It's going to be very wood forward. And then big windows. I'm going to be installing massive windows on the back wall. And I had some other questions about the spooky room. Am I going to be adding a bathroom there? I'm not sure yet. I don't know once I start doing stuff what the space is going to want. I don't want to make everything small just because I want to shove a bathroom in there if the bathroom I renovate upstairs is good enough for everyone. But I am definitely going to be adding a big closet because it's unnecessary, but I have the space for it. I have so much space in that room that I could add big closets, and I've never had a giant closet. I think I would really enjoy having a giant closet. The next question that got the most asks wasn't gonna ask, but since you asked, did the purchase of the truck set you back on house plans as far as money? Yes. So I realized I didn't mention the price of the miniature truck, so I think really at the end of that whole saga, when I launch and debut in the summertime, I will do a whole cost breakdown, because then I'll get a full picture of like, this is how much the truck costs, this is how much the paint costs, this is like, I'll really break down the whole thing and say this is how much the whole thing costs. But the truck cost me $7,750. And I know some people are going to say that's really cheap, some people are going to say it's really expensive. It is what it is. Overall, I felt really good about the price. It was exactly what I needed. It had the custom rack on it, which like I would have had to pay a lot of extra money if I'd wanted something like that. So for me, the price made sense. But to answer this question and go back, it has set me back a little bit with the house. Like, that's money that cannot go to the house this year now. And I knew that when I decided to do this project this year, when I decided that I wanted to do a bookmobile in 2024, I was like, that's going to mean that something in the house doesn't happen. Multiple things in the house don't happen. But that's okay, because it's still going to be sick. It's going to be awesome. I'm so excited about it. And I got a couple of other questions from people asking more things about the bookmobile, like what are my plans for it? What is the timeline? All I can say at this juncture is I'm hoping to launch in the summer. My dream, my goal, my hope, my desire is to drive off into the sunset with the little truck in the summertime and spend, you know, June, July, August, September, like those periods, doing some pop-ups around Nova Scotia. And when that all comes to be, you will have ample notice. I'll be making videos all along the way, and I will eventually be making a website that will have like a little calendar so you can always see where I am. Because I had quite a few of you actually in the comments of that video saying, I'm visiting Nova Scotia this summer, I hope I can come visit the truck. And I was like, that would be so wonderful to get to meet you guys at my miniature truck. And do my favorite thing, recommend you books. So Tiffany asks, love your taste. Thank you, Tiffany. Do you have any favorite outfits or clothing pieces right now? Well, Tiffany, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to use your comment as a beautiful segue because I'm currently wearing my new favorite shirt. I am obsessed with this shirt. The shirt is my new personality. I think this is who I am now. The shirt is who I am now. And it was sent to me by ThredUp, today's sponsor. ThredUp is an online thrift shop and consignment store. Their mission is to help people find wonderful clothing at an affordable price by salvaging pieces that would otherwise end up in landfill. They know that shopping secondhand is the best way to have fun with clothing while also taking care of the planet. I love shopping for clothes, but it's never worth hurting the planet for, so this is perfect. I chose some lovely winter pieces because I live in Canada, including these lovely sweaters, but also this gorgeous white button down with some vests that I can layer over top and then use again in spring, summer. This lovely Bowden sweater was originally $80.99 and I got it for $44.55, and the Cynthia Rowley dress was $66.99 and I got it for $36.85. Thank you so much to ThredUp for sponsoring this video. It's been a dream to work with you guys. My link is down in the description so you can check them out, and there's also a link to a bunch of my favorites. I went through ThredUp while I was picking the pieces I wanted to get. I favorited lots of stuff, so if you want to see some of the stuff that I really liked, that's down in the description as well. Okay, I've switched into the pretty dress and moved to a new location to keep things fresh. And we're going to answer the next set of questions. So I think it's time to talk about the engagement. If you want the long explanation of how everything went down and a lot of details, I told the whole story on my podcast, Books Unbound. So that is linked. I'll link directly to that episode down below. You can hear the whole thing. But for all of you, I'll just say it was wonderful. It happened on our exact 5th anniversary on the day. It was in Lunenburg. We've been going to Lunenburg for the last 3 years on our anniversary just because we both really love that town and it's such a beautiful place. So we go, we stay at an Airbnb, and we just basically spend the weekend reading because it's the off season, so nothing is open. And so the first evening that we got there, we unloaded our stuff, we went to one of the bookshops, we went and had dinner, and then we went for a little walk on the docks, and he asked me to marry him. And I picked the ring. I knew that it was happening, but I didn't know the exact day that it was gonna happen. And the whole moment was really beautiful. I cried and cried. And it was also really private, which really mattered to me. I really wanted it to just be like a him and me moment, but we were on this beautiful spot on the docks at night. The light was glimmering on the harbor, and I said yes, obviously. And and then we went back to the apartment and we called our families, and the whole thing was really beautiful and really jolly and really wholesome and good. And I feel really happy. It just feels like it's come at the right time. So the next question that I got people asking, of course, was about the wedding. Vorg asks, are you going to share your wedding planning and aesthetic? I know it's private, so you probably won't, and that's fine, but I grew up on wedding dress shows and would be so interested. I really understand this inclination because when I find out that a YouTuber that I really love has gotten engaged and is planning a wedding, I'm very intrigued. I want to know about the details. The thing about my YouTube channel is while obviously parts of my life are being documented and I like to share certain elements with you, I also like keeping a lot of my private life private. So I don't think that I'm going to be making any wedding content. If it wasn't for this Q&A, I wouldn't have made an engagement video. But I know when it's over, I'll definitely end up sharing with you guys how it went and photos and everything. So I'm very happy. I feel very happy, and I feel really like it was the right thing at the right time, and now I'm looking forward to the next step. And I will say I'm not getting married this year because that's way too overwhelming. I have a mini truck to do. I have a bathroom to renovate. There's far too much going on. And I like the idea of a long engagement and just sort of reveling, in it, all of it. Kill to Craft says, can we have a how you and Conor met or got together story? I'm not sure we've heard it. So yeah, I'm sure I've talked about it loads on my podcast, maybe somewhere here, but Conor and I dated in high school, which is so funny to me. I was in grade 10. He was in grade 11. He was in a band. He was so cool. He had long hair that went over his eyes. I could never really see. I don't know if I ever saw his eyes in high school. We dated for like 5 months, and then I broke up with him because he was an emo. I couldn't handle it anymore. And so we broke up, and because he was in the grade ahead of me, I never saw him again, really. Like, we didn't have classes together or anything. And then 9 years passed. I moved to Central America. I moved to England. I moved all over Canada. He moved to Toronto and did all sorts of adventures in his life. We had 9 years where we genuinely didn't talk even one time. And then one random day, I was just like, whatever happened to Conor? And I looked him up and I found him, and he was living in Toronto, and I was going to Toronto in a few weeks, and I really didn't keep in touch with anyone from high school because every time I move, I do this horrible thing where I'm like, starting new, goodbye to everyone I've ever known. But I'd gotten to an age where I was like, God, it would be kind of cool to talk to someone who knew me a long time ago, a decade ago. I don't know anyone from back then. And so I messaged him and I asked him if he wanted to get tea. He replied to me and he was like, wait, this is so weird. I thought about you last night, and I looked you up last night, and I thought about messaging, but didn't. Did you did Facebook recommend you to me? Like, why did you think about me last night? And I was like, wait, Facebook didn't have anything to do, no algorithmic interference happened. We just cosmically thought about each other randomly 9 years later on the same night. And I just was the one that messaged. And so we got together and we had tea and we became friends again. And for months we were friends, and then we started dating. And now we're here 5 years later. We realized yesterday that we've actually spent more of our relationship now in Nova Scotia than we have anywhere else, which is so funny. But now we've just been here for over 3 years. So it's all beautiful, very jolly. There was another question about Conor, and I got a lot of people asking me this kind of thing, so I felt like I should answer. Does your boyfriend contribute to the decor and the style of the rooms, or does he help with the renovations? And he doesn't, in that it's a me project, but he does whenever I ask. So a lot of times off camera, I will go to Conor and I will say, Conor, I need your help. And it's carrying stuff. That's the thing I can't really do when things are extremely heavy and I need to get them up and down stairs. I guess I could do it, but he can do it way easier. And so I'm like, can you please carry stuff for me? Can you move this over here? Can you take all these garbage bags outside? He will always help me with that stuff. But when it comes to everything else, I'm pretty content doing it all on my own. He's very aligned with the style decisions that I have. He loves colorful things. He loves happy, wacky design. So he likes what I'm doing. And while I really totally get why people would wonder, doesn't he want more involvement? It's sort of my job. It's not sort of it is my job. My job is renovating this house and making videos about it. And so at night, I'll be like, what do you have going on with work tomorrow? And he'll say, I've got to fix a thing in our code. And he'll say, what do you have going on tomorrow? And I'm like, I got to rip those studs out. So we're just doing our jobs, and my job is renovating this house, and it's something that I really care about and love doing. And it's not one of his interests or hobbies particularly. So he always helps if I ask him to, but it's my project. Okay, enough about Conor. This next question is from Miranda. What YouTube channels do you follow for inspiration? This is an interesting question because it's not just what channels do I like? It's for inspiration. I don't think I follow any channels for inspiration. I follow this channel because it keeps me inspired. But there are definitely channels that I follow that inspire me and whose content I really enjoy. The first one that comes to mind is Isabel Paige. I think the way that she's telling her life story is so beautiful and interesting, and it feels like a really beautiful type of autofiction and documentary, and I love her videos. I love Wild Roaming Rosie's channel. Rosie, you're amazing. Your videos are so beautiful, and you inspire me. You really do inspire me. Your projects are so fantastic. So those are just two that come to mind. I guess I would also throw in Vlogbrothers. I've always always loved the Vlogbrothers. I feel like I grew up with them. I've always respected them and admired them. I'm inspired by them in different ways. You know, Isabel Paige and Rosie are both people like me who are living in rural places, working on their homes, building projects. Like, that's my whole realm right now. But with the Vlogbrothers, I like respect their dignity and their wholesomeness. Those are things that I really aspire to. So anyways, moving on. I liked this question from Jeanette. I don't have a Victorian home, but it's my dream to own one day. What things can I add to my current small home to give it the feel of a Victorian home? So this is really cool because that's the classic thing, right? Everyone wants charm in their homes, but a lot of modern builds don't come with that type of charm. I think that the key is superfluous trim. My baseboards don't need to be this high, but they are because it's epic. These mantelpieces don't need to be as dramatic, but they are because they're beautiful. And there doesn't need to be trim on the ceiling, but there is because it's beautiful. And so they just put trim everywhere and just really built up these moments. And I think you can really do that. You can add beautiful trim all over your home to make it feel custom and built in and cared for in a way that it may not have been in that specific aesthetic way. I think mantelpiece really is the number one way. So many of the rooms in this house none of the rooms have functioning fireplaces, but they still all have the mantelpieces, and it instantly makes the room feel fancy. You're like, wow, this room has a mantelpiece. Now we're talking. This question from It's Caroline Mary comes up a lot in my comments. Do you see this home as your forever home, and do you see yourself staying in Nova Scotia? I guess I do see this as my forever home. I could really picture me and my boyfriend, and probably in combination with my brother, all three of us getting an apartment in Halifax, because the ability to go in for events, for friends, for stuff like that is really important to our social lives. Otherwise, it's very difficult out here. But other than that, I definitely don't see myself ever selling this place. I've mentioned before, my parents bought the place next to my place, and so we're building our own commune out here. I love this house. I, at the bare minimum, see myself like spending all my summers here, kind of a vibe. And overall, I'm like, why ever move? I feel so settled and happy in this place, and I'm starting to really like just sink deep into it. As for Nova Scotia, I really love Nova Scotia. When I moved here, one of the counselors literally came to my house and said, "We're so happy to have you here," and gave me a little welcome packet. I was like, this is the best. The hospitality, the kindness is wonderful, and I love being here. To be fair, have loved every province I've lived in, and I've lived in 5, but I love leaning in. And so I live in Nova Scotia, and therefore I love Nova Scotia. I really like this question from Charlie. After renovating your own home, would you renovate more? Potentially make a career of flipping homes? So there was a period early on when I really thought this was going to happen. I was like, definitely 100%, I'm going to finish my house, and then I'll buy another little house and fix that, and then another house and fix that. I've realized that that is not actually my dream. While I really enjoy learning skills and really enjoy woodworking and really enjoy learning about electrical and all of these things, the motivation for it comes from the fact that this is my house for me and I get to live in it. And otherwise, I don't think I could bring myself to spend the like hundreds of hours that it takes to renovate a home and then just sell it and give it to someone else. I think that would be so depressing. Also, like, so much of the way that I'm decorating this house is only fun for me, right? My comments would agree. Many people don't like the paint color choices that I make, etc., etc. And that's fine. It doesn't matter. This is my house, and I like the paint choices I'm making. But if I was just buying houses to flip them, I would be thinking about the resale value. So I realized, actually, no, I'm enjoying renovating my house. I'm enjoying learning all these skills for my house. And I love helping friends with their places. Like, it brings me a lot of joy to help my friends with this sort of stuff. But I don't think that this is like a career path for me. I think it would just make me sad to like work so hard on a place and then sell it. Desmad asks, I heard you speaking Spanish with your mom. If you don't mind me asking, where is she from? My mom is from Honduras. I used to visit Honduras growing up as a kid. I lived there for a year and a bit when I was 18. I spoke Spanish as my first language because I grew up with my mom. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and so I learned her language first. And then I learned English when I started going to school. I love being Honduran. The food is the best. The culture is beautiful. I love my mom. It's a very happy part of my existence. I'm going to answer a couple more questions in one more location. Let's go. Okay. For the final round of questions, none of which are thematic rounds, just more groupings, random groupings. I've brought us to another chair and another outfit. I'm just having fun switching things up here. Natatam says, do you ever regret filming your home reno process for YouTube, given the pressure there can be to release new project videos and the potential for criticism of your style choices? This is an interesting question because I have opened myself up to criticism just by the nature of posting, as you've said. I don't regret it even a little bit because I would not have been able to afford this home renovation were it not for these videos. It just would not have been possible. I have to keep scooting back because the sun is in my eyes, which is why I chose this pretty location, but I'm slightly regretting it. And yes, there has been criticism, but overall people are really positive about my home renovation, and I get lots of really nice comments. And, you know, anything that when I posted book videos, when I used to be a primarily book channel, I got lots of criticism for the way I read. And the idea is, like, I still have people constantly shouting at me about The Great Gatsby and Catcher in the Rye. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what you talk about, people are going to get mad at you. And in this model, I'm able to make this beautiful dream of renovating an old house and like getting to build a home as my job. I feel really lucky about it. So I don't regret it at all. I loved that these two comments were right next to each other. Have you ever experienced anything paranormal in your house? And another person, have you had any paranormal experiences since moving in? I really have not. I would tell you if I had, because it would add to the lore and we could like do merch with a ghost on it or something. Like I would lean in, but I haven't. I really haven't. I've had mice. There's been a fair few of mice. I saw a squirrel once in the back room, a moment I care not to think about. There's been rodents, but there hasn't been any ghosts that I have noticed. Elle asks, do you find your EDS has an impact on how much you can do with regards to DIY? And I had a couple of comments about, my chronic pain condition. So when I was 12, I got diagnosed with hypermobility because I was 12 and I was always having ankle pain, which is weird when you're that young. And so got it looked at, was diagnosed with hypermobility. When I turned 22, I went deeper because I was starting to have a lot of other joint pain, and it turned out that it was Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I've talked about this a little bit on my channel. I guess I don't feel very qualified to talk about it, and so that's not why I talk about it very often, because I'd hate to give bad advice, but just my own experience. It's a nightmare. It's horrible. I am in kind of constant pain. But the thing is, there's nothing I can do about it. It's a frustrating and depressing kind of a darkness, but there's just nothing I can do about it. And I've talked to doctors and I've talked to some specialists, and the truth is that I'm just going to live with pain. And therefore, I'm not going to stop it. I'm not going to let it stop me from doing the things I really want to do. And basically I just do their home renovations and put up with the consequences after, which I am not saying is a good system, but I am saying is the system that I do. So basically, like, I currently, like yesterday, was ripping out the bathroom, and I know that the next 3 days are going to be rough. I'm going to feel really tired and I'm not going to be able to do anything physical for the next few days, but that's okay. And then next week, I'll be back at it and I'll go hard for a few days and then I'll have some recovery days. So again, I'm not saying this is a good system, but it's just what I'm doing because I don't see a way around it. This question is actually kind of related. Marley asks, how do you handle the frustration of surprise expenses on the house and bookmobile with a positive attitude? This has been such a frustration of being a young homeowner for me. Totally understand this because it is a nightmare. Everything is so expensive and everything constantly spirals out of control. Like you're like, okay, I just have to buy a can of paint. No, wait, that wasn't enough. I actually need 2 cans of paint. No, wait, I hate that color of paint. I need another can of paint. Or something goes wrong and you have to fix it and it is just really expensive. But the reason I laugh because it's similar is it feels like that Ehlers-Danlos situation to me where I'm like, there's just no way around it. Like, it just doesn't matter. And that's how I cope with it. I'm like, I'm gonna have to pay it, like, this way or the other. I'm gonna have to pay it. There's just nothing to be done about it. And the other thing about this one is, like, I just feel so lucky to own a house that I'm like, the hot water tank broke. Damn, I'm just gonna have to hire a plumber. At least I have a house. Like, and it's cheesy, but it that helps me a little bit, being just very grateful and having lots of gratitude for the whole situation. Laughing, though. That's, like, if I had to say one thing, it's just laughing. What can you do but laugh? The one thing I've done is definitely, like, I commiserate with other friends of mine who own homes. Like, I have a friend who's been in a battle with a heat pump for 2 years, and I know I can message him and just be like, get this. There's weasels in my cellar, and we just have to laugh. Daenerys says, and I'm hoping I answered this one in the previous Q&A, but either way, Daenerys says, I'm asking the same question I did a couple of years ago on a Q&A. Are you happy? What makes you happy? And what do you consider as meaningful in your life and why? I'm a philosophy teacher. Please forgive the pensive tone. I like the pensive tone. Let's get pensive, shall we? Am I happy? I think that I am. And I don't think that I was for a long time. Not unhappy, but not happy either. I felt okay, fine, good for many years. And last year, that really shifted for me into a place where I would say I do feel happy. And when I try and pinpoint what it was a sense of stability. Years and decades of moving, of constantly moving and making friends only to say goodbye and finding favorite restaurants only to never return. And all of these sorts of things that it had all caught up with me. And so finally moving to this province, buying this house, settling, and having 3 pretty stable years, I suddenly felt like, hey, I know this place, and I'm not leaving. And that was such a tone shift. It was such a tone shift. The second part of that question, what makes me happy? It's definitely my family. And what do you consider as meaningful in my life and why? It's my family. Like, I've always had really great relationships with everyone in my family. My parents and my brother and me are best friends. And I've just love them so much. And so the more time I spend with them, the happier I am. And also I think I'm loving my longer term adult relationships. I now have friends that have been my close friends for a decade. And that is beautiful. Like, you know these people, you love these people. And in my case, they're all people that live far away from me. They're in England, they're in British Columbia, but it doesn't matter. Like, I love these people and I've known them for so long. That's gorgeous. Like, that, I love that. Rosie says, can I come visit and will you drive me around in your cute car? Rosie, I will take you anywhere you want to go in that mini truck. The final question I screenshotted was from Kira. Hi, Kira. What is one extravagance you dream about getting for your house? Okay. There's a couple. If we're talking dreams here. Like one of the most depressing dreams is like getting all of the windows finished. That would just be so nice for heat. All the rooms would be warmer. But the thing that I actually dream about the most is having a giant wall of windows down in the living room. This is a goal of mine, and I think it's just going to take me a long time to save up for it. But having like a lot of giant windows, like a window wall, you know, like those beautiful modern homes that have massive window walls. I want that on my back deck thing. I just think it would be so wonderful to get to sit there and look out and just have that division between nature and the inside blurred even more. I also want a hot water tap. I went to a place one time where they offered me tea and I was like, for sure. And they just went and poured water from the tap and I was like, whoa, not even gonna get boiling water in here. No, of course it was. It was a boiling water tap. It instantly boiled the water. Instant tea! It was incredible. It really was. It really was incredible. Okay, the sun has set, so I think it's time to end this video. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted a question. I'm currently off of Instagram because it was just not feeling good for my brain to be there. And so I asked for questions here on YouTube this time, and I was like, is that going to happen on this community post thing? And you guys really showed up. So there was over 500 questions when I last checked. So thank you. That was awesome. I had a really great time answering all of your questions. Sorry if I couldn't get to all of them. There was Like I said, 500 of them. Thanks so much to ThreadUp for sponsoring this video. Once again, they are linked down in the description. Check them out. And I will talk to you guys in my next video.